the Industrial Revolution has brought us new technology, almost new everything, a whole new facelift of in all walks of life, of your daily life, as well as the cityscape, especially so in Europe, and that's the advent of or that's a predecessor of modernity, of modernism, that we are marching, we human being as society is marching into modernism, modernity. And uh, and this lecture we're gonna look at some of the vitalities, some of the vibrant movements that happened during this process of modernism, of modernity. And I want to use this photograph to start our lecture today, because Alfred Stieglitz's the Hand of Man, because it's really symbolized the momentum of the cultural of the Industrial Revolution, and this new change, this new transformation and power, the train moving forward, bring the steam, bring everything, everywhere that it passes by. Has brought in new transformation, new change to people's day-to-day life. This train is unstoppable, that is coming at you, and it's this photograph that reminds of the past, right? Let the bygones be bygone. That photograph is able to capture this very moment, this very era, if I can say. And this era, era of marching into the modernism is rather a emotional one. So Alfred Stieglitz, through this photograph, is really convincing the public to understand photography as a visual tool, a new technology that's born out of the Industrial Revolution, but it has the potential, it has the ability, the capability, I should say, to tell this exciting story, or to retell this exciting story of mankind. And so that's our subject, the photography and modernism. Well, first of all, there are many isms that were happening, that were burgeoning during this time, in the start of the century, of the 20th century, before the World War II, the end of World War II. There were Cubism, Constructivism, Dadaism, Surrealism, theories of the psyche, which is the Sigmund Freud's analysis of dreams, or interpretation of psychoanalysis, interpretation of dreams and psychoanalysis, all this development, probing into our brain and how we think about how we understand the world, the psychology, and Bauhaus. But in photograph, in photography, in the field of photography specifically, it's in Europe there's a movement also called the New Vision, a new way of using photography to document the world. Gone is the pictorialist. Photography now can be an independent art form, can be an independent, very independent method of participating in this modernity, of this modernism. A bit about this New Vision. Started one of the advocates of the New Vision movement is Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, and he said that the reality of our century is technology, right? It's the technology that changed the world, and photography is one of those many exciting technologies, right? So the invention, construction, and maintenance of machines. To be a user of machines is to be of the spirit of this century. Machines have replaced the transcendental spiritualism of past eras. That's a very key, right? To offer a space to offer a status for photography, for camera, because camera is one of those many machines that were invented during this time. Correct? So Maholi Lajee was just saying that photography, right? Don't just look at it as technology, but because our whole world is changed by technology, we can just use the old way, the old spiritual way of looking at things. We need to use a more technological way of looking at things. More specifically, is we can use photography, we can use cameras, this new technology to look at things, to look at the world, to create, to understand the world and actually create new understanding of the world. Right? It's very different. Don't use the same standard that you use to judge art, to judge painting, to judge sculptures, and you don't use that to judge photography. And Maholi Lajee was committed to the potential of art as a vehicle for social transformation and the betterment of humanity, and the camera as a mean to imagine a new world. The camera is that vehicle, right? That artistic vehicle to participate in this transformation. This transformation is very unstoppable, as I kind of try to show you, or try to convince you with Alfred Stieglitz. Just like the way Alfred Stieglitz wanted to convince the people of his time. So the question comes, what does new vision photography look like? Well, new vision photography, what does that mean? That means it included taking photographs from views that's from above and below, very peculiar, what used to be to be thought as a peculiar angles, right? Now new vision, because you're applying new vision to look at this world. The camera is your new weapon, and you get the view from above and below, and close-ups and collage, montages, which we're gonna talk about much later, right? Piece together all the different images to express your feeling, reflection, unusual angles, refractions, cameraless images made by manipulating light through various devices. I'm going to explain that later as well. And darkroom manipulations such as solarization. Well, this is a new technology, right? Photography, camera. We can use it, manipulate it, and why do we want to manipulate it? Because we want to acquire this new vision. You see, the industrial revolution, this change in the industrial field has swept across the world, brought us new life. This technology has changed our way of living our day-to-day life. We don't live like we used to. So photography, camera should have a new function, right? A very similar function that can help us get something new. And since photography, right, is kind of like a window for us to see the world, let's get some new vision from this new technology, right? Can we? This from photography, get some new vision, and that's and the photographs, right, and the photographers, they started to be creative, imagine, they come up with new ways to help us see this world. Many very interesting ways. I'm gonna get to them very soon. And I can be more specific about some of these new visions, or Maholi Lajee can be more specific. about these visions in his book, published in 1925, Painting, Photography, and Film. For example, abstract seeing by means of direct records of forms produced by light, which is photogram, which is cameraless, which is using photo, right, as this container to see, to create images, use light to create images. Exact seeing by means of fixation of the appearances of things, or distorted seeing, distort the way you see the world, and through which we can get a new way of thinking about, of viewing this world, a way that we don't normally get in our day-to-day life, right? A view that we don't normally encounter in our day-to-day life. And and many, like X-rays, many other ways of seeing the world, right? This is more this is technological, but it's also artistic, because this new ways of using this technology helps us to get new vision of what art can be, of how we can participate in the visual world. Again, just a summarize of the different new forms, new ways: photo montage, photo collage, unusual extreme angles, all of which we will see examples of later. And just want to remind you, before I get into the different artists, before I get into the different photographers, I want you to try to piece together what the context, right? What this era was like. What's the energy, right? How the different ways of photographing, the different ways of creating images, how are they different from the photograph that we've seen? Well, for example, we have Maholy using the photogram, right? Not even the not just taking the camera outside to hit the shutter and capture the film. He's actually using light, right? Since we have this technology developing the film, we can just manipulate how the light comes in and use that to experiment. This is, if I may, a pure experiment of many geometric form of the world. You see, this looks like something looks like a hand, or like shape, and maybe a cloud, maybe some kind of shadow, very abstract, but created by photography, right? Maybe a combination of different ways of developing the film, a new vision, and through which we get a new vision. Or like Man Ray's Spiral and Smoke. There's no camera involved in this photograph as well. It's what we call the photogram or radiograph. The radiograph, it's actually named after Man Ray himself, capturing this ring, right, continuously exposed under light, and developed into a form like spiral, right? Because it's playing with the light, using this new technology called photography to play with the light and use the light to draw the graphic, something, and I would rather say, to experiment with the graphic, right? So Man Ray is very, at the time, very avant-garde, because it's interested in making art from junks, from millennia of things. right? As a way to help us see differently. A ring can be created, right? Some kind of, maybe a cup, right? Behind it, there's a cup, can be viewed from a different point of view, and by doing all this different, sometimes hard to understand experiment, Man Ray is reminding us that, don't you see that this industrial revolution has brought us new things, and we should use these new technologies to see the world anew, to explore, actually more proactively, to explore the world anew. Don't you agree? And as we continue with Man Ray, we have to mention this ism, the surrealism. What does that mean? The surreal. Well, surrealism was pretty popular, gained its momentum in between the two world wars. Right. This first World War has brought devastating outcome to cities, to countries, to everywhere, in ruin. Beautiful cities became a collection of rubbles. People lost hope, right? People started to question intellectual. Well, civilization have been developing for a long time, and we've accrued all these wisdoms, and intellectual doesn't seem to work, right? Thinking or contemplation doesn't seem to work in stopping the world, stopping the war. The war is still imminent to us. We're still inevitable, and it cost us lives, the loss of life, and other things, loss of properties. And this new wave of artists, they started to use a surreal way to express themselves in a more mental, surreal, emotional, subjective way of expressing themselves. So surrealists, they sought to overthrow the oppressive aspects of modern society. Right? Modern society, what's the weapons modernized, right? Because the Industrial Revolution, the weapons, the military weapons, the fighter jets were first used in the World War One, and so it's this new form of modern society. But this surrealists, they were questioning that modern society. Is this really modern, or is this a regression? Right. So they turn away from rational thoughts. Rational is not much helpful to us, and embracing the marvelous, the uncanny, and the unconsciousness. Kind of like you, if I can put it in another way, that is, if you break up with your partner one day and you are really upset, you go to the bar and get drunk, right? So you want to dive into that unconscious state of yourself. Well, when the world, when the citizens, when the artists, when they get hopeless and helpless, they tend to go into the similar path as well, if that's easier to understand. So surrealists, they responded to the chaos of the world by turning inward, focusing on the interior psyche of their subject. Plus, the Sigmund Freud psychoanalysis, development of the psychoanalysis, psychology, gave them theoretical support in their pursuit of the unconsciousness, in their surrealism. And Man Ray is one of them. That's why I talked about surrealism. For example, this one. This is a photograph that Man Ray created, putting this shadows, right, this holes from a violin, and impressed it impressed them on this nude body, a nude body of the prostitute that Man Ray knew. Her name is Kiki. Why is this surrealist? What do you think of this? What does what does Man Ray try to suggest with this surreal, with this manipulation of the body, and with this imaginative narrative? What kind of message does he wants to convey? What kind of narrative is he offering? How is the Kiki, the body of Kiki, how is the body of his friend, the nude body of his friend, related to a violin? How is that or is it a unconscious? What kind of state Man Ray is trying to present to us? Think about those questions.